you ever heard of Humpty Dumpty?
Yeah. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
There
Humpty
you
Dumpty
go.
had a great fall. I know things.
So he's often depicted as an egg.
Yes.
I don't know exactly why. So if you can imagine, the egg falls off the wall and the egg is splattered all over the floor. So all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. 'Cause that's an egg. You can't put an egg, once an egg's broken, you can't put it back together again. So Holocaust was like, you take Judaism and you just throw the egg on the floor.
2006, I came back from Israel from a trip, and she came to the airport to pick me up with my mom, and I went to give her a hug. We were always like a pretty huggy family, and she stepped back from me, and she stopped giving me a hug. And it's
I should give a share on this. I didn't record it though. In the middle of it, I was like, "Yeah, she records. This is pretty good stuff."
okay. Well, we could talk about this if you want to record this share.
But to have like the text in front of me, and go through it all. But it's
like I something in me.
The Lashon of the Shach is.
You know where I'm getting to.
The Lashon of the Shach is. I was always told that it was, or I always understood it as being chiba.
What's a chiba?
So like Habibi, like you call people in Hebrew Habibi.
Yeah.
So it means like loved one. So we're good friend, or like you're my best friend.
You're my best friend.
Yeah, there's the gotta get into the microphone for that one. So Habibi is like a loved one. So something that's a derech chaviva is something that you're doing for love.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big difference between, for example, some woman who is sticking her hand, because the big question is sticking your hand out for shaking your hand.
Right. Does it derive from Shomer Negiah?
Yeah. So, I mean, the starting point is that anyone who's usher to you, you can't have relations with. And most women you can't have a relationship with, because either they can be married or they're going to be Tameh, they're going to be Nida. And there's a gezerah of, I'm going to forget a lot of facts like...
Are you nervous?
Eliyahu, no, because of the alcohol or whatever. I'm very bad with names. When I was smoking, I went into a shop and I was like, do you have a... And I just stood there for like 5 minutes thinking the word spoon. And I'm like, I really got to stop smoking. So
it's like when people stop at a stop sign and wait for it to turn green.
So it's just like forget words or whatever, forget people. I'm very bad with names, very bad with one of the takanas of Ezra made a takana. This is back in the time between the two temples. The takana was that non-married women don't go to the mikveh. So therefore most women are going to be nida or married.
Right.
So you might get lucky if a woman is divorced or she's a widow and she's menopausal and she has gone to the mikveh since her menopause. So then...
Do you have to go to the mikveh after menopause?
Yeah, because you're nida until you're not. And the only way, so it's no matter what. Once you're nida, you can do whatever you want. You have to get out of being nida. You're still nida. So... Those people could be wanted. So all those you can touch them, no problem, whatever. Don't have, well, whatever. Now, so because everyone's also to you, basically, there's a second Isser called Lo Sikravu al Davar Erva.
Lo Sikravu al Davar Erva.
Yes, that's what the pasuk says. Don't come close to a Davar Erva. So to a woman who's an Erva, don't come close. Lo
What's an
Sikravu
Erva?
from Koruv. So an Erva would be one of the women who's usher to you.
Okay.
So again, the classics would be your mother or your your father's wife, these type of things, or your sister.
Right.
So it'd be an erva, and one of the ervas is nida. So nida is just the most common. A married woman is an erva, and a nida is an erva. So that's most people. You only have one mother, a couple of aunts, whatever. But there's millions of married women and there's millions of nidas. So for there, you have the separate isser of lo sikravu. Now the lo sikravu can't be to do it. It can't be that you can't come close to them in order to do it, because the isser is already, you can't have relations with them.
Right.
So you can't have the same isser. Don't come close to let's say lo sikru was kissing and hug them or whatever, or you have an act that isn't the relations, but is something that brings you along the way there.
Right.
So an act like that it can't be the Isser only if you come to having Bia, because the Bia is already Asr.
Right.
So this has to be some type of intimacy with this woman who's Asr to you, that you don't come to Bia.
Okay.
So even without Bia, so if you have Bia, you'd have two Issers.
Right.
So there you have an Isser Deraisa of Lo Sikravu. Okay?
Okay.
So don't... Now, what exactly can they go? So shaking her hand is not an act that will bring you to having relations.
Is extending this to siblings chassidus, or is it stam halacha?
Well, first we've got to see what the halacha is.
Okay.
So there's a Maklokas Rishonim as to whether you have a Yarek Vel Yavar, that you should die rather than do it. So for example, if I tell you to kill him, or I'll kill you, so therefore you can't kill him to save your life. You're better off to Yarok, be killed, rather than kill the guy.
Right.
That's Shvichas Tam. You have the three Averas, Avodah Zarah, Shvichas Tam, and Gili Rice.
All right, you can just let me know when you're ready to go.
I'm ready. You can start rolling whenever. You can keep talking.
Okay. We are rolling. It's in the wide shot. I'll play around with it once we get rolling. So you
Great.
Can,
I don't think I'm.
wide shot if you want.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to start with an open. I'll do a close, but I like the idea of just like coming into it. So yeah, you can just start rolling
I'll start it. With your left hand, do not elbow up like that.
like
If you
this.
look at the monitor, you
Oh, I
can-
see. Yeah, you can see us in the monitor right there.
That's sorting things out. I figured I'll mention it now.
You can like pretend to slap me if you want. I'll just.
Is that
You're rolling.
Amazing. Okay, continue.
So where were we? So you have the three Averas where you have it's better to die rather than commit them. So then you have the associated lavs. You have a lav that it's not the actual sin itself, but it's like a connected Avera. So for example, I saw someone send me this book recently about some rabbis trying to tell people to give money to a church. So something like giving money to a church, it's not Avodah Zarah, giving money to the church, but it's an associated, if you hold that a church is Avodah Zarah or whatever, so therefore the associated, if you give the money, that isn't the act of Avodah Zarah, but giving the money will be associated that you're helping them, you're supporting the Avodah Zarah. So that would generally be looked down upon. And so an associated act of having relations with a woman would be hugging and kissing them. So the shach on the here where it says in Shulchan Aruch that there's a lav, or the associated lavs, it's better to die rather than do them. So Moshe Feinstein brings down, it's a Stipler. The Stipler says that it's a Yarek Ve'al Yaver. Someone wants to shake your hand, it's better to die rather than shake their hand.
That seems kind of intense.
So that would be coming from this Shulchan Aruch. It's saying that any lav that's involved with the Gili Rai. So there you have the Lo Sikravu, this idea, this Isser Deraisa of having these kiruv, that you have this closeness with this woman in an act that's not relations, that's close to relations. So therefore, shaking her hand, the Stipler would learn that's part of that. Now, the Stipler would have lived kind of in a different generation, a different world. I mean, his son, Rav Chaim, was like 100, and he was just nifter recently.
Chaim Kamenetsky.
Yeah, so his father. So again, women only had a vote, like 100 years ago. So who are these women?
How do you feel about that?
Who are these women that you're touching and that you're shaking their hands? In the 20s or whatever it is, especially in Israel. I mean, he was living in Israel. I don't know whatever about the the 60s going on in America. What are women doing in Israel? So you're walking around shaking these people's hand. Like how realistic is it that you're just shaking women's hands and you're not doing it for kicks? So coming down, so it's so Moshe Feinstein then has a teshuvah, and he says that it's an Isser Deraisa to shake a woman's hand. And then he brings in a later teshuvah that it's a mutter lechatchila. You're allowed to shake a woman's hand, and he brought a different rabbi's name down. You're allowed to shake a woman's hand because it's going like the shach. And what the shach says is that it has to be.
Wait, sorry, did you just say he gave he brought down two things.
Yeah, so he said that it's an issa d'oraisa to shake a woman's hand, and then later teshuva he brings down in a rabbi's name, someone else's name, he brings down the shita that it is mutter lechatchila, and the reason going like the shach. Now the shach goes on the Shulchan Aruch, saying that the lav is yarek ve'al yavor. That's better to. Whatever this lav, we have to define what this lav is. All I'm saying is that the Stiplers would say that it was shaking a woman's hand. So there, the Shach says that it's a touching that's a taivas bia. Then you have a taiva for relations, a strong desire for relations. That comes that is the touching which you have. They were so then seemingly the touching, shaking a hand wouldn't really be in that kind of area. And again, when you have, because when we were learning the shir, someone was asking me, and I was going to say, like, there is a difference between, hugging and kissing your fiance or your wife or your girlfriend, whatever, and hugging and kissing your auntie. Like, it's a different hug. It's a different kiss. So one kiss is taivas bia with your wife or girlfriend, and one kiss is your auntie. So that's not, you don't have a taivas bia with your auntie. So therefore, that kiss has nothing to do with the whole isser. That's the shitas of the shach.
Okay.
And the shach really he clearly brings it out, and he says it's the same din by nida. But Rav Avadia, I think he says, like, if b'diavad, if a woman is sick, if your wife is sick and she's in nida and there's no one else to help her and it's only you, then you put on a glove and you don't touch her, so you put on this glove. So that type of idea comes up
so many stringencies.
That type of idea comes up in the Shulchan Aruch when it talks about taking a pulse. Can a doctor take his wife's pulse who is in need? Because that act is not taivas bia. It's not a act that you would do to someone if you're really into them and you want to have relations. It's not, well, can I take your pulse? It's not part of the playbook. So there he says it's also on you can't do that with Anita with your Nida wife. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. And there the Shach says that the Shulchan Aruch doesn't really hold like what I'm saying. He's kind of flipping it here. Because according to the Shach, it would make sense that also by taking a Nida's pulse, that wouldn't be an issue because that act is not an act. So therefore, hugging, kissing your aunties, whatever it is, it's really not. It's really, at least according to the Shach, it's not an issue. But,
so what? So it all depends on who people hold by. Why does it like?
No, it will do for everything. Most things today. A lot of people understand, like, a lot of Judaism today is based on Christianity, and there's a lot of especially coming near Rosh Hashanah and stuff like that. It's just like these ideas of teshuvah.
Yeah, can you expand on that?
What teshuvah is?
No, about how a lot of Judaism is based on Christianity.
Especially Ashkenazis have lived amongst the Christians for 2,000 years. They've been oppressed, whatever it is. And I grew up in a in a Christian society, and the church and these ideas are all seeping into Judaism. For example, the idea of if you do a mitzvah, you get reward. That is a Christian idea that is brought in, and then you do something and God will pay you back. Now the Rambam says clearly in Hilchos Teshuvah that this is for women, children, and Amoratzim, and people shouldn't be acting in this way. But why do we act in this way? Because that's the society in general in which we live in. It's a transactional society. You have ideas of Teshuvah. For example, I am bad. I did a bad thing, and therefore I have to do better next time. And I'll make for example, they have these. What do you do for like for Lent? You pick something for X days, for 50 days or something.
That you give up.
And so people start doing that. You have ideas in like New Year resolutions. So I've heard people in these so-called black hat yeshivas who tell people that you have it's Rosh Hashanah, pick something that you're going to do better next year. Like, these ideas are Christian. There's nothing to do with teshuvah, nothing to do with the Jewish ideas. And the Jewish idea is that you never did anything wrong, and once you do teshuvah, you've lost all that, and that you disconnect yourself from that other person, and that's not you. That did the sin.
So maybe you can answer this question for me, because I have this theory that when I see the difference between how Svardim come at Yiddishkeit and Ashkenazim come at Yiddishkeit, there seems to be a more kind of like almost more simcha within Svardim than Ashkenaz. Like, is the idea that Ashkenaz Ashkenazim have lived among Christians so much and gone like kind of brought in this fire and brimstone image of God and Averos or sin or whatever you want to call it?
Well, one of the army introduced IQ tests, I think 100 years ago. And that was a big predictor of who's going to be good in the army. And the army spent a lot of money raising people and training people, so they want to know. And obviously, if you're going to go to war against Germany, whatever you're doing, you want to have the best army. So they introduced IQ scores, and the IQ scores have been a tremendous predictor of who's actually going to be successful, in the army with all your tax money and all that type of stuff. And obviously, you have to get rid of it now because of it's racist. But Ashkenazi white Jews are like 1 or 2 standard deviations across from their bell curve is completely is shifted from everyone else's bell curve. So
In a good way or a bad way?
into the higher intelligence or the higher IQ. Now, IQ is just basically the ability to reason shapes and numbers and that type of stuff. It's not intelligence. It's just a way of interpreting information. So an IQ test will be like, here's a triangle, which is the shape that's next in line here. So the Ashkenazim will tend to be a lot more sechli and a lot more into svara, understanding something. They'll get their pleasure and their hana from seeing everything take shape in a sechli manner, where the whole sugya just fits in together, and there's a tremendous level of pleasure in doing that. So the Ashkenazi Rishonim, your Tosfos and your Rashi, they made it onto the page. The Sephardi Rishonim would be people like Rabbeinu Yonah, who wrote a sefer, a Musar sefer. You have I'm very bad with names. Chavos Levavos.
I was going to say, I think you need a drink.
Another again Sephardi Musar books. It's very rare to have Ashkenazi Musar Rishon, but all the big Rishonim. Rashi's the Iker Rishon, and then you have Tosfos, and then the Rosh, and then obviously you have the Sephardi Rishonim. When the Rosh went to Spain, the Rashba was maida to the Rosh, as he held that he was a bigger Talmid Chacham, even though the Rashba was like the Gadol Hador at the time when the Rosh left Germany and came to Spain. So the Ashkenazim have genetically, whichever way you want to look at it, have been a lot more into seichel, a lot more into learning in that manner. So therefore, there's the chap, and it's kind of distilled into laws. And then so what's happened kind of now, which is kind of post-Holocaust, where the Holocaust just destroyed Jerusalem, just destroyed Israel, and destroyed Torah. I think a good marshal for this would be, have you ever heard of Humpty Dumpty?
Yeah. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty
you
Dumpty
go.
had a great fall. I know things.
So he's often depicted as an egg.
Yes.
I don't know exactly why. So if you can imagine, the egg falls off the wall and the egg is splattered all over the floor. So all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Because that's an egg. You can't put an egg, once an egg's broken, you can't put it back together again. So Holocaust was like you take Judaism and you just throw the egg on the floor. So now we're in a post-broken egg situation, and we've put the egg back pretty well. But anyone who's seen an egg or knows what an egg looks like looks at your egg that you've put back together from it being smashed, and it's just like, this is, you've done a good effort, but this isn't what an egg looks like. You do know that. And everyone else is like, wow, I've never seen a real egg before. This is the best thing ever.
Mm.
So whatever, Ashkenazim today, they're kind of living in this post. So today, Judaism has become a book. It's all what's in the book. And someone was actually just saying to me today that all Jews have already decided that whatever the Shulchan Aruch says, that's halacha. Whatever the Mishabura says, that's halacha. And I just thought it was like, it's a nice idea that we can just simplify everything like that. And then, I'm just a Jew. I'm just going to do what the book tells me. And like, you read the Mishabura, it's not really going to help you.
Why not?
Because it doesn't answer your question. first thing, the Mishnah Berurah is not a Sefer Halacha; it's a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. So it's a very bizarre way how to learn something. Where the Shulchan Aruch is a kitzer; it's the end of the story of the Beis Yosef, and then you read that first, and then the Mishnah Berurah has to start explaining to you what you just read because you don't understand it, because it's very succinct and it doesn't, it's very difficult to understand. I mean, both the introduction of the Mishnah Berurah and the Aruch HaShulchan say that if the Beis Yosef knew people wouldn't learn the Beis Yosef with the Shulchan Aruch, then he would never have written it. And you can't just read the Shulchan Aruch, chas v'chalila. And so it's a nice idea, but again, the whole thing is life is complex. I can give you 5, and again, like you give your kid, right, 10 shekel to go buy milk in the supermarket, right? It's not, there's no guarantee it's going to work. Who knows what's going to happen on the way or on the way back, or what type of, stuff's going on with the milk or this or that or whatever. And you expect that a book written in, 1880 is going to help you today. Again, like it's a ridiculous idea that the Mishnah Berurah is all we need, because again, it was written before the 1900s. It's written very young. It's very strange when you have the magnus opus of somebody to be written so young in his life, because the Chavetz Chaim was to 1933.
Is the Mishnah Berurah like the basic text that people go to in order to follow halacha?
No, Americans do, and because of a lot of Americans kind of dominate the yeshivish world, so therefore people who go to an American yeshiva will think that's how it is. The main way you get halakha is from your father. I mean, this is the whole thing. Like before the war, you living in a ghetto of some sort, and you have like the rabbi of the town would be a hashbah, would be some type of what's hashbah, influencer. So then you'll have your school, you'll have the yeshiva.
Influencer has taken on a completely different definition these days.
So it's the same thing. You have a guy with a black hat saying, follow this halacha, or don't, or if you're from, then don't let people touch you,
He's just not on Instagram or TikTok, unless but I think they're actually finding their way.
So again, you have the Rosh Hashiva, you have your rabbi, you have your yeshiva, you have your shul, you have your parents, you have your grandparents, and you have like this. Your town has a minhag, and then you have like all these different things kind of affecting you. And as you go through, you kind of find your way in Judaism through all these influencers. And then today, it's in a book. To what the book says. And it's even better today because I can find whatever I want, digitally. I think AI isn't really up. I think I've tried to find some sources using AI. It's pretty crap for that. I think it'd be better. You have all the, every teshuva Moshe Feinstein, in your head. Just tell me where it is what I'm looking for. It's like, kind of help you. Sorry.
AI hasn't caught up to Torah.
Yeah. So some of the stuff is good, but I'm not really an AI guy, but I haven't been able to harness it the way I want. But so
fix it, change it.
So using these searches and stuff like that, you can find all these extreme opinions that never existed. And there's the whole thing of the Meiri is a Rishon, but they didn't find his books until like 100 years ago. So like the whole Mesorah of Torah didn't include the Meiri. And then they found his books, but he's like in like the 1300s or something. So he's a Rishon, he says stuff, and it's it's all good.
Where did they find his books?
I don't know, maybe buried the Dead Sea Scrolls or something. I don't know where they found it. They found it. It was under the kettle or something. I don't know. They found it.
But have you read them? Do you know do they contradict?
So he has a parish. He's a parish on the Mishnah. He's a parish on the Gemara. So do you read them? And it's but halachically. What's something he was saying about J.B. Soloveitchik? He was basically saying that Meiri kind of has no influence on halacha because he's not in the Mesorah. Because if he was in the Mesorah, we would know about him, we'd have him. And then for the fact that he got lost, whatever that means, so then clearly he's not part of the Mesorah.
But why can't he have influence now? If we have his books and he was a Rishon,
because Torah's not a book.
Because Torah's now in a book or not a book?
Not in a book. These expensive mics might be picked that up. Not in a book.
It may just be the accent. I'm getting it though.
Could be. So if Torah's in a book, so you find a book and you do whatever the book tells you. But Torah's not in a book. So today it's all in a book because everyone's so lost and everyone's just everyone's looking for something, and you can find whatever you want wherever you want. And then today again, what a lot of people are they're not looking for. Well, a lot of the time they're looking for relationship with God, and the religion doesn't offer that to them. It's not structured in a way to offer that, and therefore they don't get it. And it's substituted with external things like the black hats or the payas or those type of things. Like Hasidus is not about payas; it's about Hasidus, whatever Hasidus is. It's not about wearing them. I mean, the whole thing of the Baal Shem Tov is not what you look like; it's about what you are on the inside. And so a lot of it has become, I mean, a lot more in kind of, the East Coast of New York or whatever, it's supposed to, around here, but it's like you have to wear these certain things, and that's what people care about. And once you stop wearing the black and white in these Netflix shows that they show of these things, once you stop wearing the black and white, now you're like this pariah.
Well, I remember I have a story that when the first day I showed up at yeshiva, I was wearing like this purple button-down shirt. I had jeans on. I didn't know anybody. I was just checking it out, and this guy came up to me and he goes, "Why are you wearing a purple shirt? You look like a guy."
And what was your answer to him?
I didn't know what to say. I don't like being called a guy.
Why? If you're comfortable, like if I called you a girl.
Well, you knew me back then. Was I comfortable? Was I a comfortable human being?
No, you're comfortable. I'm saying comfortable in your Judaism. If you're not, you're for sure not comfortable in Judaism. I'm saying that.
Well, that's why this thing is called the uncomfortable yid.
So, well, that's why when you call a goy, you get so. If I call you a woman, does that make you feel uncomfortable?
No.
So you know about your masculinity. You're comfortable in your masculinity. I call you a woman. You don't care about it. And it's very interesting because it talks about Shavua Shav. Shavua Shav is a Shavua. Rambam says, what's a Shavua Shav? It's a Shavua that everyone knows to be true. And what's the example he uses? That a man to be a woman, or a man to be a man, or a man to be a woman. Or the opposite, you say a man is a woman, or a man is a woman to be a false one. So it's very interesting that he picks that specific one, like he knew we'd be dealing with all this nonsense. But so it's halacha. Everyone knows this. So it's just, you can look in the book.
Is it halacha or just reality?
It's in the book. It's in the book. You have to look in the book.
Always look in the book.
So I mean, a lot of people say, like, if you ask these altar cackers, how do you know that God exists? And he said, well, Rambam says so. It's halacha. So there's a certain level of mood. So whatever you're comfortable in, somebody can attack you and it doesn't matter. Now, when people are not comfortable, it's a very interesting exchange in which you brought out there, because you walk in with a purple shirt into, what was it? It's about Baltashuva Yeshiva?
Yeah.
So what the hell does this guy care? What's his problem? Because he's not comfortable being a Jew, and therefore you coming in with your purple, he's wearing like the black and white or whatever it is, and he's not comfortable with who he is. So therefore, when you come in wearing a purple shirt, then you make him feel uncomfortable because he's not comfortable with who he is. So then he comes and he attacks you to try to make you not comfortable with how you are, in order that he will feel then better about himself. And then
it was. I think it was. As I look back on it, it was more annoying because whether it's me or somebody else, for somebody who's just coming into Judaism, or it could be. I feel like it could be a complete turnoff. Like, who's this? Like, who are you? Who are you to just come at me like this? But what you're wearing is supposed to represent something.
Well, there's a lot of things that will be a complete turnoff when you come to yeshiva or Judaism or that type of stuff. I mean, it's kind of built on things that are a complete turnoff.
Can you expound on that?
You see, a big issue in which I have is. Now,
did you read the question that I was going to pose to you?
No.
This is amazing. Keep going.
Avraham is chesed. Yitzchak is gevura. So when Avraham is having his, kiruv shmooze or whatever, you've got beer and you got the girls and you got the popcorn going, and it's like, hey, you want to come to my Friday night, When Yitzchak is given his kiruv thing, he's like, this is the MS. If you don't like it, then you can't change the world. This is the truth. Eat it or don't. And then you have like a lot of people saying, yeah, I want the truth. Yeah, I want the truth. And then once they're faced with the truth, then they just bolt because they're not interested in the truth. I mean, there's a famous parable of this guy finds truth and he's living with her in a cave and he's learning with truth. And then when he leaves, he asks her, can I do anything for you? Now, the truth is this disgusting old woman. Horror, we can't even look at her. Disgusting. And she says to him, yeah, go tell everyone how beautiful I am. And everyone's looking at it. I want the truth. And when they see it, they're not interested in it. And then it's like, at the end of the day, it's like, well, what can God do for me? And, that's not religion. And there's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. It says that one moment of Maisa Torah and Maisim Toivim in this world, it's Teshuvah and Maisim Toivim in this world, is greater than all of Olam Haba. And one moment of Hanas Ruach, Nachas Ruach, which is like pleasure in Olam Haba, is greater than all of this world. So there's a clear stira between the Reish and the Sefer here. The Reish says that this world's better, and the Sefer says the next world's better.
What does stira mean?
Soiser is one of the malachas and Shabbos. It means to destroy each other. It means to destroy something, stira. So when something's soiser, you have two opinions that don't agree with each other. So if I say it's red and I say it's blue, so it's soiser, so they can't both be red and blue. So in soiser, it's destroying, so it's a contradiction. So the beginning, the Reisha says that this world's better, and the Sefer says the next world's better. So in life, you always got two choices. There's pleasure and there's relationship. And whenever you accentuate one of them, you're always sacrificing the other. So for example, if your kids say to you, or you say to your kids, you want to go to the ball game. Now you're happy to go to the ball game without them. So you take them there and you're having a good time. So, but your relationship with the kids isn't necessarily that great because you'd go without them. It's not, you're not there for them. So when your kid says to you, it says, okay, Daddy, will you bring me to the My Little Pony movie? And you're like, well, I really don't want to see that. I was like, well, who cares whether you want to see it or not? I'm not going to get pleasure by sitting for 2 hours and watching ponies running around. But your kid that's what your kid wants to do. So she wants you to take him, or he wants you to take him. So there, your relationship is being expressed, but your pleasure isn't. And the Mishnah is saying that the ratio that you act in this world is good. What is a mitzvah? Mitzvah from tzavcha, to connect. The mitzvah is your connection to God. You want to have a connection to God, you can only have it here.
So it's not a good deed as it's
not a good
translated.
It's not a good deed. No, it's a connection to God. You want a connection to God, you do a mitzvah. So that gives you that connection to God. Now here, especially in this world, is special to do mitzvahs because God is not revealed. And it's amazing that God's not revealed because anywhere else you did a mitzvah, since the mitzvah is God, it's the infinity of God, therefore you would just become the infinity. You would just become the mitzvah. Because God is not revealed, therefore he can be everywhere and you feel nothing, you'll never become the infinity. If God is revealed just a little bit, so then when you turn it up, then you'll get sucked into it. So like having a vacuum, when the vacuum's on, it's not going to hoover you up, but if you turn that up to infinity, so you'll get vacuumed up into it.
Then could you make the argument that I hope no one thinks I'm being like
you can edit it out.
An apikaris here.
What's wrong with being an apikaris?
But I'm like that. Then the destruction of the first base of Mikdash was actually a good thing, because they say that within the first base of Mikdash there were open miracles everywhere, which in my head is saying it is a place where God is revealed. So if you can go to a place where God is revealed, then does the idea of a mitzvah is the idea of a mitzvah lessened?
Well, I mean, a simple answer to that would be that when you read the Torah, and especially in the book of Bamidbar, and the Jews are going through the wilderness, and all this stuff is going on, and they start moaning at God and says, look at that, I didn't get my Sports Illustrated, today. I'm supposed to get it for the weekend, and I haven't got it delivered yet. I hate you, God. What the hell's going on? And then there's a whole thing going on, and it's like every little thing they're just moaning about.
Yeah.
And so from my perspective in, 2020, whatever, I'm like looking at this and going like, I wouldn't really, I wouldn't be so upset if that happened to me.
Yeah, you do read it and you're like, why are you guys complaining so much?
So that's the one, because your emunah today, because God is not as revealed, is on a far stronger level. And because God's revealed, so therefore you don't really have any connection with God. When God gives you, you're a good boy. When God doesn't give you, you're not a good boy. So as soon as God doesn't give you, that's it. Does he even like me? So it's like, I don't know, you text that girl you met at the nightclub. She doesn't text you back. It's like, oh my gosh, it's over. And then you hate her and you start screaming at her because there was never any relationship there. It was only what you can give from me. So now you do it, and let's go. You have a guy, and he's, he's coming from, and then he has his shop, and you tell him, oh, you can't work on Shabbos. So now he's got to shut on Shabbos. So you can't have it that he shuts on Shabbos and now he's making more money the rest of the week than he did on Shabbos. Has to be, he stops working on Shabbos. Now everything's, going to the wall and everything's crap. And he looks at him and says, look, listen, God, you think you can hide yourself from me? You think that just because I stop working, I start keeping your mitzvahs, you can hide yourself from me and I can't see you because things aren't going well or things are bad or whatever it is. Oh, I can still see you. But it's just like, well, I just do it because it's good for me. And as soon as Judaism stops being good for me, I'm going to stop doing it. So then there's no relationship. It's all a relationship with yourself. What do I like to do? Well, how does God fit into me? So I'm not infinite. God is. So therefore, what the hell do I want him to fit into me? And we have so every day I wake up and you're like, I'd run the world this way. And God has his own way of running the world. And we very rarely agree. But Lamaisa, who would I want to run the world? Me? I mean, I wouldn't fancy for much people if I was to run the world. Whereas
that makes two of us.
Whereas, I'm sure a lot of people are upset at God, but he's still doing a much better job than I would do. So it's, what do you, so I have this, so whenever God runs it the way that I would want to run it, I love him. And whenever he doesn't run the way that I want to run, I hate him. So there's no relationship. It's just me. And that's what they turned Judaism into. So Judaism into this. What can God do for you? That's what Kiruv is. What can God do for you?
It's a relationship based on expectation of...
Well, it's not a relationship. It's just give. So again, you have... if you have a job and you don't have to like your boss. Go work for Apple. You don't have to like Tim Cook or whatever his name is. He writes your checks and you take your money and you don't ever have to meet him. Just because you work for Apple doesn't mean you love him. Because it's just a job. I come in, I get my money. That's doing mitzvahs and get reward. Like, who cares? There's no relationship there. It's like I don't even need God. God doesn't have to be there. And this is what they're selling. So when people come into that, they're not going to find what they're looking for. They want God, and they're not going to get it because no one's selling it to them. Because everyone else has been told this other stuff. And everyone has been told that, you can't have a relationship. You can't have it's not for you. So therefore, it's all about how are you going to be better than the next guy. So now I'm the best guy because I'm wearing all the clothes, and I got the black and white, and I got the hat on. And now you come in, and you got like a smile on your face, and you're like, well, you're not wearing black and white. And it's like, oh, well, what am I doing wearing black and white if you can wear, purple? Because I really want to wear a purple shirt. So I got to come over and make you feel extremely uncomfortable so then I feel better about my life choices. So then I come over and I say, oh, yeah, you're a guy. And being a guy, again, is only a threat to you if you're not comfortable with who you are. Because if you know you're not a guy, so I'm a guy. Okay, you're an idiot. Okay, whatever, whatever makes you happy. It's like you have like a 3-year-old screaming at you. Like, who cares? This guy is like, he's not, when someone comes over and tells you something like that, you have to do anything. But like the Rahmanas, how long has he been in there? He could be in there for 5 years and he's so lost. And he's in a place full of lost people and no one's going to help him. And one day he's going to hit the wall and then finally maybe he can start to make something of his life. Because until then, he's just surrounded by these people who have no idea what's going on. And he doesn't know what's going on. And he just does another daf, and he's just feeling like, what the hell am I doing? And then it's just like, it becomes this slog of, well, I'm going to get a Olam Haba. But then when he gets to Olam Haba, that's just pleasure. And if you're looking for a relationship, it's not going to help you. What do you say about Hugh Hefner? What's your favorite pleasure in life?
Chicken noodle soup, I think he said.
Hot soup, yeah, it's hot soup. So he's getting pleasure all the time, but he doesn't do it for him. I mean, this is a big issue with marriages. Marriage is a kli for a relationship. It's not a kli for pleasure. Disneyland is a kli for pleasure. You can have pleasure at these in your marriage, and you can have relationships in Disneyland. But if you go into your marriage saying, "Oh, this is just going to be pleasure," it's not going to work. So then as soon as the newer model comes out 10 years later, so then, well, she's going to give me more pleasure. And then you flip and off you go. But the marriage is for a relationship. And the whole point, because the big question, it says, according to the Rambam, it's about whatever, according to the Rambam, if you want to have relations with a woman, you got to marry her first. Got to have Kedushin, and then you have Nesuin. Kedushin is the commitment, you commit yourself to her, and then the Nesuin is the pleasure you have with her, which will be the relations, for example, or just living with her. Now, according to the sheets, whatever, what does God care? Why can you not just go to the nightclub and pick up a chick and off you go? Like, what does God care? He doesn't want you to have fun. Oh, it's us, sir. Why?
Are you posing the question
I'm
to
asking
me?
the question.
Can you repeat the question for me?
According to Shitas Rambam, if you want to have relations with a woman,
Mm-hmm.
you have to first have Kedushin before you have the Nisuin. The relations. So, according to the Rambam, the halacha is that if you want to go to a nightclub, pick up a chick and do whatever, no, you can't do that. You have to have the whole Kedushin and Nisuin first. So, what does God care if you go to a nightclub, pick up a woman, and have fun? No, it's Osir. Why?
Well, I have to imagine that in some way it harms you. Because at least the understanding that I have when it comes to mitzvahs and Torah and what God wants from us is all about our benefit.
Or benefit? No.
No?
It's about a relationship with God.
Maybe I phrased that wrong.
Yes, you did.
I mean, it's what's best for us in regards to living the best life. Unless this is my...
So why is picking up chicks in a nightclub not living the best life?
I have no answer for that.
So I was one of the jobs I was working on, this guy, I was like 19 at the time, I guess. And this guy, he was 19. He asked me if I had any Viagra.
Did you?
And I'm like, Viagra? Why the hell would I have Viagra? Like, there's an old folk working here. Like, why are you asking me? And also, like, why the hell do you want it? I said, so he's going out with this girl. She's like super hot. She's out of his league. And, when they do it, he wants to be a stallion, I think was the word he used. So I'm like, sorry, I don't have any Viagra. But come on, the old folk probably have it. I don't know. That's them. So I saw him like a week later or whatever, and I said, like, did you get your he said, yeah, I popped half a pill. I was going all night. It was great. So what's going on here? He's having, they call it intimacy. So the guy's about to have intimacy with the woman. Now, what's he afraid of? He's afraid of not being a stallion. He has an idea in his head of what women are looking for in men. And then you have to play up to that, thing. It was probably in the FHM era. So
what's FHM? FHM era?
A alpha male, men's magazine.
Oh.
So I don't know if it's so... I don't know what women are attracted to today. If alpha males are still on the menu.
I don't know. Everything I see is the alpha male is trying to make a comeback.
Okay.
Yeah. We went from alpha male to feminine male, and now it's trying to peak back up to warrior alpha male. So
he's still going for the stallion back then anyway. So he can't reveal himself. If he reveals himself without the drugs, without the mask, without the makeup, then he's afraid that she's going to run away. He's going to lose this girl. So therefore he has to put on the mask in order to pretend to be someone else who he's not. And when it comes to the act of intimacy, he can't be himself. He can't reveal himself. He has to pretend to be somebody else. And then if she likes him, then she has to work out what do guys want in a woman and then play up to that ideal and act in that way in order to keep him, because otherwise she's afraid that he's going to run away. So when it comes to the act of intimacy, everyone has their masks on. And that you can't actually be intimate. The only way that you can get to intimacy is when you have commitment first. When you started off with commitment, that I am committed to this. And therefore, and the easiest way to have commitment is to your kid.
Yeah, but you could put a mask on within commitment.
But you can't take it off without commitment. So when you have with your kids, and of course you have your masks on with your kids, however, you'll take it off quite often. So you have a commitment to your kids, and it's like, no matter what you do, whatever, we're still committed. Even if I never speak to you for the rest of my life, we still have that bond. And you obviously you have a much stronger bond with your kids than with a wife you may not speak to ever again. It's like, okay, she's done, I'm next. But the children, you have the commitment to them. So when you have that commitment already in place, so then something goes wrong. Okay, so now I feel that I am in a situation where I can reveal myself, and I reveal myself a little bit. I'm not going to dump myself on you because I'm still, playing the thing. But at the end of the day, my problems are your problems.
Can you give an example?
In which context?
In the context of something
you
goes wrong, taking the mask off.
You have the Mishnahs in Ksuvas talk about mums, like the woman has moles or things like that, or discussing parts of her body and things like that. So it could be if you're dating her, she's like always keeping the top on or something for some reason, and you're not asking anything because or she just brushes it away, and then she's got like some mark or something there, and then once you've committed to her, she may not want to discuss it, and then she's like, oh yeah, look at this, and then it's like, okay, well, I would dump you if we were just going out. But I've now married to you, i.e., I'm committed to you. So now I'll have to work through it.
It's like I can't just run away.
Or a simple thing would be, let's say your mate has a life-changing medical procedure. So if you're dating them, it'd be like, okay, you don't have to run away, but you're more likely to run away. But if it's your wife, it's like, well, it's your procedure. It's our procedure, whatever you want to see it. And it's not like, okay, well, this isn't how, I'd want it to, this isn't what I'm looking for. This isn't the catalog, what I'm looking for. But now, you have this issue because you're committed to this relationship. So therefore, it doesn't become if I'm looking for what I can get out of the relationship, and then, I don't know, Chas v'Chalila, a woman loses her arm or something, like, well, I don't like this. I want a woman with two arms. So then if you're just looking for pleasure, you're not going to have as much pleasure. But if you're looking for a relationship, you're looking for commitment, it's going to be entirely, everything's completely different. And therefore the way that these things happen, you react to them completely different.
Does commitment bring reality out of fantasy? Do you know what I mean by this?
I don't really know what you mean, but it sounds good. I'd like to say yes.
No, because if we're talking,
it makes it real. I think it allows you to bring. I think it would say the other way. I think it allows you to bring reality into fantasy because again, you're playing this game. And Jordan Peterson was saying that he's been looking at the statistics, and he would think that if you have couples that are living together before you get married, that they would have their marriages be longer rather than people that just get married to start their relationship, which is kind of how Jews do it. Because obviously you date or whatever, that dating is a very different relationship to being married in the Jewish circles. And he said he was surprised to see that the people who date first, you can go 2-3 years, whatever, dating and then get married. Those marriages last less time than people who just go in. And he said a b'derech safek, like he didn't know the sugya, that he's like maybe commitment is the key, and that's like no, commitment is the key to a relationship. Commitment's not the key to pleasure, but commitment is the key to a relationship. Now through the relationship you can get tremendous levels of pleasure or whatever, but the goal isn't the pleasure, it's the relationship.
Right. Well, I guess I was asking because if you're constantly looking for pleasure, then once kind of reality hits, like somebody loses their arm, then if it doesn't fit within the picture of fantasy that you've been living through.
Even if she doesn't lose her arm, she's going to get old and someone else is going to get young. And if you have enough money, then you can, just switch to the young one. And then you'll always find, but again, that pleasure just the dopamine rush, is not a fun game to be playing. And again, one of the things one of the ways you know if you're enjoying yourself is if even when it's over, you're still having fun.
Even when what's over?
So you're doing an act of pleasure, and then when that act is over, you're still enjoying it. Mm. So if I'm on the roller coaster and then the roller coaster's over, I'm not still enjoying the roller coaster. I went on some a Disney ride. I remember just thinking, like, are my glasses still on my face?
Which Disney World? Did you go to Disney World or Disneyland?
I took the kids to Paris.
To Paris?
Paris.
How was that?
That was it was a fun day because the kids because they're all like living in Israel. They have no clue about such simple things as Disneyland. So like one of the kids thought Disneyland would
Happiest place on earth.
So one of the kids think he's just going to sit and watch Disney movies all day. He thought that's what Disneyland was, and why wouldn't he think that? And then we're having this day, and then it's just like it's a big like concept change for them or whatever. It was a fun outing, and I'm like I can barely see when you're coming off these like rides and whatever. So, but when you're over, you're not still having fun. Now, if let's say you watch a good movie or whatever, you can still be enjoying the movie and the movie's over. And even if you're not thinking about it, you're still, that was, enjoyed that. And that was, you're still enjoying it.
Right, giving quotes and...
You can have a good, if you learn, but again, if you're doing it with Torah or whatever, you're still enjoying it. Like you have a good sugya and you're not doing it anymore. You're not engaged in it. You're still feeling it. Your wife has left you not for the day, not like eternally.
I'm glad you clarified.
She's walked out the door for work, and it's not like, well, I feel crap now. It's that it continues. So when you're still there, when you're having that, when you're having again the pleasure still continues, even though you're not engaged in the act. So then it's you have with the male, a lot of the times, they know that as soon as they're, especially when they're chasing, a woman or whatever, the nightclub or whatever it is, and then, especially if they're drunk, and then as soon as they've, done what they have to do, they're just like, what the hell am I doing here? And then when they're with someone who they like, all of a sudden it's, they're happy to be there, even though, the act is over. Can they still stay there? And they have, there's a whole, bits on Curb Enthusiasm or whatever, he likes to do on the floor, so then no one's hanging around and everyone gets up quickly afterwards.
Never watched Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Well, so you got, they're not all
you haven't lived.
They're not all grace, but you have an 11 series you can enjoy yourself.
Well, no, the question that I had for you coming in here was going to be, like, what in your opinion does Judaism... Hold on, I wrote it down right here so I wouldn't stumble. My piece of paper.
You can edit it out.
Yeah, right. Like, what are your struggles with how Judaism is taught these days? Which was the question that I posed, which you actually started talking about yourself. And I'm posing the question now because I went to yeshivas and I'm still struggling with my own Yiddishkeit, and I'm trying to find.
I'll tell you, they say that Yaakov is emes. So that would mean that, Abraham and Yitzchak isn't. So what the hell are their problems? What are they doing wrong? Now, emes, it's not that they aren't emes, but emes is something that's eternal. So it calls a river that runs dry every 7 years. That is... it's called a lying river. It's not true. It's telling fibs. It's telling porkies that even though you look at it and it's flowing, since once every 7 years it goes dry, it's just lying to you when it's flowing. So something to be emes needs to be eternal. What you see is what you get, no matter what angle you're looking at it. Like, this is how it is. And again, that's one of the things with the Torah. It's the same. We're reading the same Torah. It's kind of bizarre. Like the first time when I read Koheles, it's called Ecclesiastes. It was like, this is just talking about Wall Street. He wrote it 2,000 years ago, and it's just like, so there's an eternality to what they're talking about. I'm sure. Again,
can you give me a brief overview of Ecclesiastes if it doesn't?
Yeah, man is just looking for fame and glory, and he's working hard and making lots of money, but life isn't about making tons of money, or it's not about that, but there's more to life than just making tons of money, and that is really, the money's not going to make you happy. And I would just thought that people didn't have money until Reagan, but they seemingly they didn't. It's just the same things just going over and over again.
Did we say Bruch Dana Emes? Didn't Reagan die?
No.
Who just died? Carter.
Carter
Carter.
who screwed everyone over. I just don't. He basically just thought, right, Israel defeated everybody in the the 6 Day War, and then Carter just forced them to give everything up to Egypt. And Begin, I think it was, you're just like, why should we give all this stuff up? And Carter just like forced them into, well, if you don't, this and I mean, even happened with when Trump came to power the first time, he was told there was I think it's quite interesting. There was a guy who was high up in the Republican caucus, whatever, who hated Bibi, and he was telling Trump that all the problems in Palestine are all Bibi's fault, and you gotta listen to whoever's on the other side, and these are the guys, and don't talk to Bibi because he's just wasting everyone's time. So for the first year and a half or whatever, he was not buddies with Bibi, and then they kind of showed Trump that one of the Palestinian guys came in and started showing how much we just love everybody, and then they showed him in Arabic. They showed Trump in Arabic that the next day he was giving a talk saying how we hate everyone, we're going to kill everybody, and all this type of stuff. And then they basically said to Trump, because they knew this would wind him up. They said, he thinks you're a I was going to say a Trump. I think you're like you're a dump. You're a dupe. He's just duping. He's tricking you. You don't know what you're doing. So Trump was like, then he just like flipped out, and then he started to kind of realize. And
I feel like the last thing you want to do is insult Trump.
Right. So I didn't insult him. We just took him for an idiot. So he was like, I'm not an idiot. So he so only like the last 2 years of his presidency did he kind of flip onto being pro-Israel, that type of stuff, and being being best buddies with Bibi and this whole and all the Arab what's it called, the Arab Accords only really happened his last 2 years.
The Abraham Accords.
Yeah, and obviously the big one is Saudi Arabia, and so it's highly. That's really why Bibi came back into power, because he was out and he stayed in, and he came back in because he wants to do this Saudi deal. And he's getting kind of caught up with the war and all, but
as most of the country has.
Yeah. So, well, this is why kind of one of the reasons it started was because they want to derail these type of things, and obviously because Biden invited them all to do this. So what were we talking about?
Ecclesiastes.
Yeah. So
Koheles?
So everything's just we're just going around in circles, and so Carter's screwing everyone over. Yeah. So Carter gave Israel a bad deal for the. I mean, there's books about it. You can read it up, but the Torah has an eternality to it because it's emes, and therefore any year you're going to read it, you're going to see yourself in the book. No matter what life you're living, no matter what you're doing, you'll see yourself in these things because it has the emes to it.
But if it's emes and if it's truth, then how are there seemingly so many different ways that it's taught?
Because it's emes. Again, these are, people don't understand what a machlokas is. It's really bizarre that it's just simple things people don't know. So, for example, what's the most romantic evening that you could do with, if you could take a woman out, what is the most romantic evening?
Oh my goodness, you're putting me on the spot.
Well, whatever you're going to say, is it going to be an absolute answer?
No, because everything's different.
Why?
Everyone's different.
Because everyone's different.
Everyone's different.
So what's the alternative to that? Everyone's the same. So if you want one answer for everything, then everyone's the same. How could you have one answer to everything? I mean, there's 3 flavors of ice cream. People can't even argue: chocolate, vanilla, strawberry. People can't even agree on that. But I want one thing. You can't have one law because it's a relationship. If it's I'm doing something in order to get reward, you can have one law. Stick your finger in that hole for 10 seconds and then you'll get an ice cream at the end. But that's not what Judaism is. So it's not going to help. You can't have one law. And then everything has to be matim to you. How are you going to relate to this person? How are you going to relate to God? How are you relating to God right now? Because that's going to be different in a minute, because God's infinite. And your relationship with God is infinite. And therefore, it's constantly changing. So therefore, what do we do in all these different places? So for example, you live in Jerusalem, and then you eat, I will eat pas Yisrael, only a Jew who's baking my bread, when I'm in Jerusalem. Then you go to Alaska, and now you're eating pasakum. How's that possible? Because things change. And there's different times at different places. Everything in Shulchan Aruch is true in a space and time. Once you change that space and once you change that time, you got to see if it's true or not. And then therefore it's not dead. If it was dead, there'd be one answer for everything.
So would you say, has your experience shown that different places though preach that their Torah is the right way, rather than allowing Torah to kind of breathe in this emistic way?
Well, I think people who don't understand, then they'll say that because they have to. Again, when do people preach things that it has to be like this? Because they're uncomfortable. They don't have confidence in what they're doing. So therefore, there's a way to be a Jew and a way to be a goy. And wearing the purple shirt has to be a goy. And it has to be. And I have to preach it to everyone because I'm uncomfortable with my position. So I'm uncomfortable with my position. I don't care. What the hell do I care what the hell you wear? Now, the point which I'm really getting to with this emes thing, that the emes is unchanging. Now, my issue with you asked how Judaism is taught today is that when people go into yeshivas and places like this, they are given tools that will allow them to be Jewish and thrive even in a yeshiva environment. And as soon as you take them out of the yeshiva environment, they just go to pieces.
That's what happened to me.
And so therefore, what they're not being given is emes. Because what is emes is it's unchanging. It doesn't change. And therefore, just like here in, at the Kotel, I daven 3 times a day, so too in Alaska, I daven 3 times a day. That's emes. That's unchanging. Now, it's very easy to take someone to the Kotel and get them to daven 3 times a day. But it's not easy to take them in whatever these places are and then get them, Wisconsin, Iowa, whatever. What are you going to do there? So they are bringing people into this, this is a wonderful, and it'll work for you as long as you're with these people and as long as you're in this environment. And then once you step out of the environment, we will give you no tools whatsoever to live in those environments.
Yeah, but people, places, and things is like a real thing. Like, what tools are you talking about?
So when you have a relationship with God and you have a relationship with the religion, so therefore, since it's a change in religion, so therefore, just like you have that relationship in Jerusalem, you have that relationship in Alaska. But if you just given a set of rules, so the set of rules work here, they don't work over there. And then if I tell you, listen, do mitzvahs and get reward, and don't do averas and then you won't get punished. So it's nice and easy to do that in Jerusalem. But when I'm in wherever town, so you know what? So just punish me. And you know what? Just don't give me my reward. And when you have, if you have stubborn kids or whatever, you can, once they're in their mode, once they're in them and they're in their, I'm going to be stubborn now, you can offer them whatever it is. It's not going to make a difference. You can threaten them. It's not going to make a difference. No, you can take everything away from me. I don't care. Because it doesn't, so what is this? Again, if you're preaching this idea that God's just giving you candy, he'll just reach up. I don't care anymore. I just don't care. Because all it is just takes from me all the time. All I'm doing, I'm just doing other people's work. Because when I'm getting all the time, I'm not there. I'm not involved. I'm just somebody who's working for you in order that I can get something later. You don't exist.
I find this interesting because I was listening to one of your.
I'm glad you found it interesting.
Because it kind of I think I'm connecting it to one of the YouTube podcasts that you made, and you had this. You said that when Yosef's brothers were talking about killing Yosef, that why don't we just send him down to Mitzrayim, because Yosef wants to go to Mitzrayim. I found that curious, because why would he want to go to Mitzrayim?
Because there was a machlokas between the brothers as to what is Judaism. Abraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they were all shepherds. The 10 tribes were all shepherds. What does a shepherd do? They go away from society onto the hills and be dead. They're on their own. And by being on your own, you can separate yourself from the rest of the world, and you can be a Jew on the hill. You can be a Jew in your ghetto. Yosef didn't do that. Yosef was with his father. He stayed. Why wasn't he with the shepherds? Because Yosef had a view of Judaism, which was, he was the first modern Orthodox Jew. What is modern orthodoxy?
Who was the first
Yosef.
one? Yosef.
What is modern orthodoxy? That everything in the world the Torah has something to say about. And therefore I will go into the world and I will show the world what the Torah has to say about it. What does the Torah say about music? What does the Torah say about philosophy? What does the Torah say about science? What does the Torah say about finance? What does the Torah say about podcasts? And he goes and he shows, so that everything that the whole world is doing, either the Torah has something to say about it or it doesn't. So if the Torah is all-encompassing, the blueprint, people tell us the blueprint for the world. Oh, but everything's usher. So what does Torah have to say about podcasts? Usher. What does Torah have to say about movies? Usher. What does Torah say? Usher. That's the answer. That's all they got to say about it. So then, you go move on where your sheep are, and you go in the hills, and you separate yourself from everybody, and then you be a good Jew out there. So Yosef says, no, we're going to go in. We're going to go and we're going to reveal the Torah in everything. No matter what's going on, we're going to see what the Torah is. And now here, see, there's a big problem with this idea. And the problem with this idea is that, if you look at, there's lots of Jews in Wall Street. Now, did the Jews go to Wall Street and lift up the Kedusha of Wall Street? Or did Wall Street bring down the Kedusha of all the Jews that went there? And you always have an equation. And in that equation, you got to see, like, what side of the equation are you on? I mean, as you have the same battle with like the Haredim versus the Dati Lumi. Everybody holds that a Jew coming to Eretz Yisrael, it raises up his level. Everyone's going to hold that. So Dati Lumi says, so get everyone into Israel and we'll raise up the level of everybody. So the Haredim say, well, if you bring all the Chilonim in to Israel, you'll bring down the level of Kedusha in the whole of Israel.
Yeah, but
even if you're bringing up everyone's individual, if you have, so it's Israel's full of frommies, people keeping Shabbos, let's say, and then you bring people who don't keep Shabbos, so it lifts up their level, but it doesn't necessarily, but it brings down the overall level of Yisrael.
Yeah, but you made this point in the podcast that Yosef was able to keep outside of Eretz Yisrael while Yehuda, I don't know if you want to call it an Aveira. I don't think it was.
So the point being is that Yehuda is.
I don't.
Yehuda is like, I feel like again in the Beis Hamikdash. The Beis Hamikdash is in Yehuda's portion, and then you go out of the walls in the Beis Hamikdash. It's possible, right? And that is a great parable for Haredi Jewry. Once you go out of the walls, you're apostle. You go out there, you go to work, you go to the army, you're apostle. And this idea, so then what do we see with Yehuda, with that mindset? When Yehuda goes outside the walls, everything falls to pieces. And again, you have that Yisro went to all the avodah zarah in the world, and then he came to God, and he said, oh, God is true. How does he know God is true? Because he tried everything else. Now, if you get 100 people and get them to try everything else, they're not all going to come to the end of that. They're all going to get, most of them are going to get stuck along the way. It's like if you have, especially like in a Baal Tshuva yeshiva, their relationship to phones and pornography is completely different to a Haredi kid. The Haredi kid, is just starting off his journey of pornography online, whereas the Baal Tshuva is like, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to get away from it. So you can have this Baal Tshuva can be far more, strong and along the, and able to withstand so much more. But if you have 100 kids, you don't, and they're pure and they're Haredi and they don't know these things, and then you just give them unlimited access. How many of them are going to come out the end and say, oh, I'm so glad, okay, and now I know what it is. I don't want to touch it. Maybe one or two. So most of them get lost. So you can't have a lechatchila.
It's interesting. I say that a lot, don't I? I read somewhere that North Korea sent some soldiers to Russia, and the soldiers don't want to come back because they got addicted to pornography in Russia.
I guess they don't have that type of stuff going on in. They always have the Russian mail order brides, so maybe it's just the Russian pornography specifically. But if you expose everyone to something, not everyone's going to be able to withstand the test. So Yosef was able to withstand the test because that was his. Because he's built up to go into the. What am I going? I'm going to go into the world. I'm going to bring God into the world and show the whole world what God is like. So that with that mentality and that training, therefore he was able to do it. But Yehuda, it's it didn't work out so well for him. So again, it's a very difficult trap for everyone, but especially for Balchuvas and coming from that world. They've already been there and all this type of stuff. To then now say you're not let outside the walls. So then you are again creating this person that can't exist outside the walls, and then once they go out the walls, everything just comes down. And then the yeshiva is like, well, this is fantastic, everything's wonderful.
But where did Yehuda have relations with Tamar? Was it outside of Eretz Yisrael?
So at the beginning of the parsha, of the paragraph, of the chapter, it says that Yehuda went down from his brothers, so they kicked him out of their family. They kicked him out of their, and then he went to the trader, and he was dealing. He went to the Prosha Drachim at where the road splits. So he's like going out into the towns. He's away from his family, so he's away from that from the Jewish ghetto. So I mean that once he goes away from the Jewish ghetto, it doesn't go for him so well. Yosef goes out of the Jewish ghetto and he converts the whole of Egypt.
So what separates Yosef and Yehuda?
What do you mean separates them?
Why was Yosef able to keep his relation?
Because his Judaism was go into the world, and therefore he learned the Judaism of how to go into the world. Yehuda's Judaism was how to separate from the world, and therefore when he goes in, it doesn't work so well. Again, this is the machlokas between, because you have the separation of the king of the kingship,
right,
from
Are you talking about the split between Judea and Israel?
So Rehoboam and Jeroboam. Do you know the story of Rehoboam and Jeroboam? Mm-hmm. So Rehoboam is the son of Shlomo, and so he goes down to the river to be anointed as king. So Jeroboam, who represents the whole of Israel, and Jeroboam is the most amazing guy. And it says the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that they would say things that I've never, like he would Machadish Torah, has never heard, no ear in the universe has ever heard this before. Every other godel in the world was just like grass in front of him. He's an amazing guy. He was a descendant of Yosef. He was the representative of Yosef. He was in the tribe of Ephraim. Always Ephraim comes before Manasseh, because most of the stuff that's happening to Israel is always going through Ephraim, not Manasseh. So the Mishkan Shiloh is in Ephraim's portion. So Jeroboam is the Gadol Ador, and everyone's following him. And he goes down to the river and he says to Rehoboam, he says to Rehoboam, reduce your taxes. Your father's taxes were tremendous. Reduce your taxes, and we'll follow you. And Bekitzer, Rehoboam, he said. So Rehoboam said, "Give me 3 days." He asked his father's Yoetzim, his advisors, and they said, "Listen to them today; they'll serve you forever." He listened to his friends. They said, "Double tax them." And the pasuk says, since God wanted to take away the kingship from Rehoboam, from Shlomo, and give it to Yisrael, give it to Jeroboam, therefore he decided to follow his friends and not his father's advisors. So you see there, like a lot of decisions you make in life, you're like, what the hell did I do that for? Well, the pasuk says in a few places that Davka, God makes people make choices, because that's his plan, that this is how it all works out. So Rehoboam said, we're going to double the taxes. So Jeroboam said, okay, so F it, we'll just go and we'll have a split. And then they made Jeroboam the king. Now again, Jeroboam is the split of Yosef. So there's a Gemara in Sanhedrin, Chof Bet, Ahmed Aleph, I believe, at the bottom, that it says, the pasuk says, and after that, Jeroboam didn't do teshuvah from his ways, because in the Mishnah it says that Jeroboam doesn't have a chelik in Olam Haba. And it says, why didn't he have a chelik in Olam Haba? He says, he wouldn't do teshuvah. So what's the story? The Gemara says, what's the story? So it says, God grabbed Jeroboam by the clothes, and he said to him, do teshuvah, and I and you and Ben Ishai, which would be David, will Matayel, which Matayel is really to have a good time, enjoy yourself in Gan Eden. So Jeroboam says, "Mi barush," who's at the head, and God says, "Benishai barush." That
Why doesn't God say I'm at the head?
well, we'll see. So he says, "Benishai barush." So then Jeroboam said, "Well, if so, I don't want it then." So you have a great battle between Yehuda and Yosef, and this is going on throughout the history of the Jews, of where Yosef is really finding yourself in God, and Yehuda is losing yourself in God. And you have there's a law, there's a halacha that by Pesach, the matzah which you have at the Seder night. See, in your kitchen, the most likely thing to be chametz is your matzah. So why don't we just eat rice matzah or corn matzah? So the matzah has to be able to become chametz, but then didn't. Only that type of matzah you're able to be yotze on Pesach. So if you eat rice matzah, since rice can never become chametz, so then you can't be yotze with rice matzah for your mitzvah on Pesach. So you have to have the ability to become chametz, and only then can you be yotze. So the Yehuda, which is the bittul, which is the losing yourself in God, that it's not about me, is that if you can never become chametz, if you can never become something, if you can never find yourself in God, so then you losing yourself has no value. So you have somebody who knows nothing about Judaism, and he comes to yeshiva and said, "Put a hat on, and we'll take care of you." So he loses himself from day one, and then he never found himself. So who was he losing? He didn't lose anything. He never became the gadol hador. So it's like you play music.
I do my best.
So if you have, you have the music that you're playing, you have the notes or whatever, and then sometimes you're just gonna just play whatever you feel like playing, whatever comes out of you. Now, if you don't know how to play an instrument and you start doing whatever I just feel comes out, it's gonna sound terrible. But if you're the expert, if you're the Jimmy Page, and then you're just like whatever it feels, so then you can really reach the heights. But you have to become the expert first to lose yourself. You got to learn the trade, and then you can lose yourself. And then what comes out of losing yourself is amazing. But if you lose yourself without learning the trade, then it's just crap. So you have what the bad form of Yehuda is abuse. You have just bittle yourself. Just do what I tell you, and you'll be okay.
The bad form of Yehuda is just abuse?
Yeah. So the guy comes in and just do what I tell you. You don't exist. You don't count. You don't matter. Just do what everyone else is doing. And then you have the, the whole everyone's looking the same. Everyone's doing the same, and you'll be taken care of. Now, everybody wants to be accepted, and everybody wants to be accepted for themselves, for who they are. And it's a lot easier to be accepted not for yourself. Just do what everyone else is doing. And while that's good, now, see, in a marriage, you can only be accepted for who you are in the point of disagreement. If you, let's say you're dating and you say, "Oh, well, I like Trump," and she said, "Well, I like Trump too," so then you just accept it, but not for you. Now, if she likes Biden, and then she can still accept you for liking Trump, so now you're accepted for who you are. So when you agree on something, so then there's no acceptance of you. There's just acceptance. So you're allowed in here because that's what you do.
So is this idea of when it comes to relationships of, oh, we don't have anything in common, is that actually a good thing?
Well, it depends what you do with that. I mean, anything in itself, anything in isolation is not good or bad. It's what do you do with it. So you can fight all the time, or you can, build together. But if you just agree on everything, then then it's just myself. I like you because you think and act the same as me. So I like me.
Right.
So it's only when you're different to me, so then things will actually, it can actually be a relationship there. It's like, well, I really don't like what you're doing. Now I have a choice. What am I going to do with this? I can accept you, I can help you, I can shout at you, or whatever it is. So it's when you come against me. So that's where, the relationship is. It's not pleasurable when you're against me. So if I'm just looking for pleasure, so, I'm out of here. I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. It's not a relationship. I don't want to be in this, pleasure seeking ride anymore.
Well, so what would then be your advice to people of how to start building a relationship with God?
Especially the Americans, the American society is very transactional.
You're just beating on Americans right now.
And I think step number one is to realize how so much of your life is transactional. And relationships are not transactional. Transactional is what you can do for me. What have you done for me lately? And identifying the transactions in your life is the first. Now, there's a lot of people like to think that there's like a compartmentability between my life and my relationship with God, and that they're two separate things. But the mashal is the nimshal, that your relationship with your friend, that your relationship with the cashier at the supermarket is your relationship with God. Your relationship with your chavrusa, your relationship with the bus driver, your relationship with your wife. These are all different aspects of your relationship with God. It's not that this is how, and then when I daven, then I have a different relationship. No, it's the same thing. This is your relationship.
But how do you move from transactional to what would even the word be that you would use?
Non-transactional.
Okay. Well, I was like, maybe there's another word.
There is.
For it.
So there's I was reading this Lucifer book, and there's I don't know if my wife is ever going to watch this, but she'd be like, yeah, I know the word, because we were speaking about the word. I don't know what the word is. There's a
we can find the word and we'll put it as a tag in the bottom. This was the word he was thinking.
There's a Latin word which in this Lucifer book is talking about that, where how basically Luciferian characters are just looking for what they can get out of people. And then the opposite of that word is also brought in the in the notes in the end. It was a guy who did the Stanford test. You know about the Stanford test?
Mm-mm.
Where he made. People know a lot better than I do, so we're just skimming over it here. And if I'm getting anything wrong, it's okay. He did
appreciate the clarification.
He did the test in Stanford, where basically he got a bunch of guys being pretend prisoners and a bunch of guys being pretend prison officers.
Oh, I do know this.
And within 3 days, the officers beating the crap out of the prisoners. And then a lot of people are upset about how he did it, whatever. But that's basically the headline. It's good, it's not good, it's done bad, whatever. But he wrote this book. And so there's this idea that the Lucifer character who's a devil. It's very interesting. I didn't know the story about Lucifer, that he was holding up the light for God or something. Like, so God's upstairs and Lucifer's holding the light for him. So they're there together, and then Lucifer's like, why am I holding the light up for you? I should be sitting beside you or above you, or whatever. And God's like, hey, get out of here. If that's gonna be your attitude, get the hell out of here. And he sends him down. So he says it's better to be, the king of hell rather than to be a servant in heaven. And that's a lot of people's lives. I think that idea, again, the marshal is the nimshal. Like, what are you doing with whatever your life is? You're either living, you're the king of hell, or you're the servant in heaven. And what you really want, especially how Judaism is taught, it really seems a lot better to be the king of hell than a servant in Shemayim, because that is the picture in which they're painting. And I know this guy, he was saying that he was in this really from yeshiva in France, and every day the Rosh Yeshiva will come and tell him, you're going to go to hell for that. You're going to go to Gehenna for that. You're going to go to Gehenna for that. And then like one day it's like, well, F it then. If I'm going to go to Gehenna, I may as well enjoy myself.
Yeah.
And again, it's nothing to do with God. It's nothing to do with it. It's just like, you're a bad person and you're going to get punished. It's like, well, what do you want? Well, yeah, okay, so I'll go to Gehenna. I may as well be the king of Gehenna, because what am I going to do? What am I going to do? In Shemayim. Just I'm going to be there. Everyone who I hate is going to be there. All these abusive rabbis are going to be there. And what the hell am I going to be there for? So, let's burn heaven, and let's go and have a party in hell. And that's what people are creating today. And again, because there's no emes, we're just creating people that fit a certain box. And then once anything changes, it's like a halacha in the Shulchan Aruch. It's true in 1400s in Sfat, and then like you change some stuff, all of a sudden it's not true anymore. So this kid is super from in Jerusalem, in this specific address, you know, in this room, in this specific day. And then you change a few things and he's just not from anymore. And then, and again, a big problem, because once the people kind of fall off, then the rabbis don't like follow up on anything because they're busy. They're busy with the guys they got now, and they have no idea about people who like fall off. The only people who don't fall off is guys who kind of like still kind of, you know, responding to emails or whatever it is. So all these guys fall off. And then it's like, well, everything's fine because everyone I speak to is okay. It's like, yes, because it's survival bias. You know, survival biases.
No.
So if you look at all the companies in the, you know, S&P, whatever, they're all the ones that are still around today. Every one that went bust is not there anymore.
Well, they went bust.
Right. So therefore, they don't have a voice. So there's the survival bias will tell you that whatever's still there is better. So if you have a guy, so they have these planes that are shot down during the Second World War or whatever, or they're shot and they don't come down. So you'll think, oh yeah, this is like an amazing plane because it was shot in a specific area where it doesn't take it down. So I'll think that this specific plane is much better than it actually is because it got shot and it still didn't come down. Just because it got shot somewhere that doesn't take it down. So whatever survives and is still there, then it makes me think differently about it. So I'll see 10 people, and the people that I see, oh, everything's wonderful. But all the people that went down, I'm not talking to them, so I never hear any bad stories. The only stories I hear are good stories. So you ask me what the biggest problem? The biggest problem is that you're not creating people that are actually able, who are actually emes. They don't believe in anything which they're doing. Everything which they're learning, it's all outside. It's all chitzoni. It's not them. Who are they? It doesn't matter. They're just doing things that are completely outside of them. And therefore, any challenge comes, like a guy wearing a purple shirt, they can't handle it. They just lose it. So this guy who's in Jerusalem and he's in the yeshiva, and he's in this and he's in that, he's still losing it. What the hell's his problem? Well, he's in the best place he can be, and he still can't handle it. Because one guy with a purple shirt, I mean, really, purple shirt? It's not like, you know, you were wearing some drag stuff or something. You know, you're wearing a purple shirt, and he's just like, and that's, he's losing it, you know? And it's just like, so what hope does he have? And they're happy with this, and this is, yeah, everything's wonderful. And then these people, and again, this is so, what is that? And then, you know, let's go raise money for them, let's keep this going. I said, why are people giving money to this?
So how do you flip it? Like, how
teach Judaism. But they're not interested in teaching Judaism because Judaism is hard, because it's not wonderful. It's not truth. Again, truth is not beautiful. But I can give you a wonderful part. I can give you this and give that, and it's all wonderful. And therefore, all you do is you're just eating cream puffs the whole time, and then you feel sick.
So how would you define Judaism?
A relationship with God. I mean, I would think that any religion, the word religion itself, would be a quest for a relationship with the divine, whatever religion it is, and so you know, Judaism, like every other religion. Judaism is a relationship with the divine. So Judaism has its ways, and every other will have its ways or whatever. But I mean, I would say that their ways don't work necessarily, but whatever, you have to do a mitzvah. But when you're giving the people that come in, the Talmidim, you're teaching this stuff, that again, a big issue is that the people themselves, they don't really understand stuff. And what they're getting, again, they can learn Sugya wonderfully. But, you know, what is Judaism, what is relationship? They don't know this. They don't learn this stuff. That's not something that they deal with. And a lot of the time, like, especially the people who become rabbis, they're the ones that it works for. So the ones that it works for, again, you have the survival bias. So therefore, this is a great system because it worked for me. And then I go and teach it on, because that's all I know, and it just keeps on. It's just everything's working, everything's wonderful. So number one is that you got to get people who, again, even then, the people who are teaching, it works. Everything works as far as they can see. Yeah, from what they can see, it works. So no one's interested in change. I mean, I spoke to. It was like such a big revelation for me. I was speaking to a yeshiva place that didn't have the best reputation for learning or whatever. They had reputation for other stuff. And I was kind of saying to them, you know, I could come to you and, like, you know, I'd improve your learning program or whatever. And the response was like, we like what we do, and we kind of have our plan, and this is our goal, and we think our goal's a good goal. And it's like, yeah, that
But
makes
my
so much
goal's better.
sense. No, but it's like, you do this because, not because you can't do something else. You do this because you actually think this is a good idea. And even though, outside looking in or whatever, that it looks a bit like, what the hell are you doing? These guys are wasting the time, whatever. Like, you believe that this is a great idea. And again, you have to have the diversity, and people choose wherever they're going. Again, people don't, when people choose, what the hell are they choosing? Do they really have, do they understand the choices in which they're making? But you have the diversity, and they no, this is our path, and we think this is a really good path. And I was like, yeah, that makes so much sense. That's why you do it. And so people aren't interested in changing. And again, the big thing, like, Apple are just making fits of money out of the iPhone. And therefore, Apple are never going to make a new iPhone. If you have whatever's going to take over the iPhone and you go to Apple, they're not going to be interested because they don't want to kill the golden goose. So you're going to have like 100,000 other startups or whatever. They're going to fail, and one of them's going to make whatever's going to replace the iPhone because Apple can't do it because they're making too much money from it. So once you've had success in the past, it's very difficult to change. You have all the big kind like Nokia. What the hell are they doing today?
I mean, why would you break something that's not broken?
Oh, because it's broken. Nokia's broken. I don't know if I can tell. BlackBerry broken.
Well, who
Why?
uses a
Why
BlackBerry
didn't
nowadays?
they change? But
Who
why
uses a
didn't they
BlackBerry
change it?
nowadays?
Because they screwed it up. Because they wouldn't change it. Because
feel
they
like that's
said it
more-
wasn't broken.
Oh, so they didn't go trial and error. They just went.
They said because BlackBerry's making too much money. What the hell are we trying to change? We're not going to go Android. We're not going to do this. We're not going to embrace this. We're not going to embrace that. We're making too much money with it. And therefore, now what the hell is BlackBerry doing? And Nokia, why should not? I mean, Nokia probably had the first smartphone, but whatever the hell Apple were doing with the App Store, they didn't do that. So then they didn't change, and now it's like Nokia was like number one and everything, and now it's like, who the hell is Nokia?
Nokia was the first phone I ever had.
Well, there you
Those
go.
like
It's probably
unbreakable,
really good.
those
Yeah, and it probably had
unbreakable
Snake on
weights.
it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Snake's like the only game you're ever going to need. You're not gonna
The
need any other
original
game.
Snake was the best game.
Right.
In my humble
you'll never
opinion.
need another game.
Nope.
And then it's like, oh well, look, I can get Mario now. But
Well, this is different. This is different.
But again, we didn't have a problem. And now again, like, you have all these shivas. Like, where did Shiva get the money from? Right? They're not a commercial. They don't sell their stuff. They get people to give money to them.
Right. They do a lot of fundraising.
So if I'm spending my money and I'm like, well, why did BlackBerry go bust? And why did Nokia go bust? I think they're probably not bust, whatever. Because the market has said, I want to spend my money on the Apple rather than this, or on the Android rather than this. So when it comes to, these shivas, whatever, they're not in a market. So how are they going to know if they're good or bad or not? Because just because they don't have money doesn't necessarily mean that, the market isn't, because they're looking for the donators, the people who are giving the money. They don't go there. They don't buy the product. You're just selling them all buy whatever hell you're selling to people who are giving the money. I mean, they're really saying like this is the best, way to do whatever the hell we're doing. And therefore you should put your money in this because, we'll make your money work to achieve your goals better than anyone else. Is that what they're selling? I don't really know. But, most of the way I understand it, or my projection of it, is just that it's like, oh yeah, you give money and you get reward, whatever the hell it is. So who cares where you put it here? I've got my tzedakah money. I'll give it here. I'll give it there. I'll give it whatever, as long as I get a tax receipt. What the hell do I care? So therefore, they're not living in that world of commercial. Are you actually being successful or not? And therefore. How are they ever going to? So therefore, they can keep on doing the wrong thing. They can keep on sticking with their BlackBerries, and everything's fine. And I'll prove to you it's fine because 20 years ago, BlackBerry was amazing.
But I also have to imagine that a lot of people who give the donations are the people who are success stories, as the success bias, are success stories that worked for them. So they give to the yeshiva that may not necessarily be working for other people.
Okay, but still, then. Again, the money, or whatever, which you're making, or whatever, that's not going to sink or sell the product. And then how are they supposed to know? It says, no, well, we were successful, and therefore, we'll be successful, or that this is the best thing, and we don't need any change, and this is this.
Well, so my last question is for the uncomfortable yid, for the Jew that is struggling with their Judaism, whether they're not from, never seen Judaism before, whatever, what advice would you give them?
Stay uncomfortable.
Why would you give that advice?
The last line of the the Tanya is that God is a consuming fire. And since God's a consuming fire, you need fuel in order to keep the fire there. What happens with the Hanukkah? We'll be lighting the Hanukkah candles. And you have the oil in there, and as soon as the oil's gone, then the fire goes out. How do you keep the oil going? How do you keep the fire going? You got to keep on putting in the oil. So what is the fuel that fuels your relationship with God? And that is the fight. Because once you're already there, then you fought. You fought before. You're an avad. You worked for God. Now you don't work anymore. I love learning. I love Torah. I love this. So therefore now you don't have any. You're not working. You're not Oived Hashem right now. You're an Avad Hashem. You previously worked. So as you keep on having that fight, so that in there, that's where you'll have the relationship. Because the more that you're working on your relationship, the more you have to fight. So you see this and you say, right now, I don't want to do this. Okay, so now's the time. So you have we spoke about commitment before. So we have a Sher Kiddushan of mitzvahs, that you gave us Kedushin through your mitzvahs. And really doing the mitzvahs is a commitment. Taking on them is, okay, I have a commitment to take on the mitzvahs. Now the commitment is really unromantic. And when you Mekadesh, today you're in front of 100 people came to your wedding, you're in the chuppah, you put the ring on your wife's finger, and all your family members are there, your mother-in-law's staring at you. Like, it's not a very romantic moment. The commitment point is like a public thing which you do, and it's not meant to be fun. It's a point of commitment. So you're doing, I am going to do your mitzvahs. So just like, you're hungover and your kid comes to you and says, Daddy, take me to school this morning. And you're like, well, I don't want to because I'm hungover. And he's like, well, there's no buses. I've no other way to get to school. You have to take me. And it's like, you have a commitment to this kid, whatever it was. Your wife is like, well, you should have thought about that before you had the kid or whatever, that you're going to take him to school every day. And this is the commitment which you have. You don't just get to take a day off. I don't care how you're feeling. You take her to school and that's it. So you wake up, I don't want to go to, I don't want to go to Shachris. It's cold outside. I'm tired. Okay, well, you made a commitment to it. I don't really care if you want to go or not. Something really to do. It's like your kid says, I don't want to go to school today. Well, who cares? I don't care. No one cares if you want to go to school. So you don't want to go to Shachris? Like, so what? You have a commitment, so you go. Do you have to enjoy it? You don't have to enjoy it. Just turn up. And turning up. That is the commitment. I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here for me. I'm here. And then when your kid's looking for you, well, I'm here for you. That's the commitment. When you have that commitment, then you do the mitzvahs. You don't have to enjoy it. However, when you are looking, when you feel like it and you want to daven, you want to do the candles or you want to do the lulav, then the relationship is an entirely different relationship. Because you were there all those times and you turned up with that commitment and you did all that. So now, when you actually want to be there, it's an entirely different relationship. Because if you only turn up whenever you feel like it, so like you're that dad who just, whenever I feel like it, then I see the kids. And when the kids want to see me, well, I'm not there. But whenever I feel like, hey, where are my kids up to? And you just turn up. So your kids, you don't have that relationship. And the kids just end up hating you. Because that's, I'm so spiritual, and I go to daven on Shabbos only, because I feel it then. It's like, well, where's it coming? What kind of crap is this? No, big turn up every day. That's what being a Jew is. And I don't want to. It's like, well, good. Because then, again, there's a Gemara says that a man, a mitzvah, someone who's commanded in doing it, gets a bigger reward than someone who's not commanded. So why? So again, people get such stupid answers for this, but why does somebody get more reward because they're commanded? So, because when someone tells you to do something, that's what people say. I really don't understand this. It's like you had a lobotomy. When you come into yeshiva, you have a lobotomy because nothing's real, and you're taught and nothing is real. So because when you're told to do something, then you don't want to do it. I mean, it's like, why? Why does that have to be true? Why does it have to be that when someone tells you don't want to do it, here, have some ice cream? Well, I like ice cream, but now you told me to do it, I don't want to have it anymore. Well, maybe you do. No, because when you are not commanded to do it and you're doing it, why are you doing it? You don't have to have ice cream, but you're having ice cream. So why are you having ice cream?
Because I was commanded to do it.
No, no one commanded you to do
Oh,
it.
no.
And you
Because I like ice cream.
Because you like ice cream.
like ice
So you
cream.
like it. You're doing it because you like it. It's for you. So you're doing it for yourself. Okay, so you're doing the mitzvah, but in essence it fits your box. So I do it. But when you're doing it, when you're a mitzvah, when you're commanded, so it's like I don't care. Do you want to do it? I don't care if you want to do it or not. It's not about you. Just do it. So when you're doing it because you're commanded, because it's not about me. So therefore, the level of relationship, what is reward? Reward is a level of relation. What is your relation? Your relationship is a completely different relationship. When you're doing it, when you're commanded, rather than when you're not commanded. When you're not commanded, you only do it if it fits your box or not. You know, so I don't feel like learning this thing today. Yeah, because it's all about you. Your whole thing is about you. What do you want to do?
So continue.
So you have the commitment, and it's like, yeah, I don't want to do it. Right. So therefore you express your relationship far more where you don't want to do it. Just like you express your relationship with your kids going to the My Little Pony far more than taking them to the ball game. Because you want to go to the ball game, you don't want to go to My Little Pony. Therefore you express yourself where you don't want to do it. So therefore that battle to go to My Little Pony is far more meaningful than taking them to the ball game. Because you don't want to go to it. And therefore the struggle will bring you that relationship. And then once you're comfortable, it's over. Once you're comfortable, you may as well just go and die.
So could you say that the uncomfortability is actually where relationship begins?
Yeah. But again, you have to understand the equation.
Well, you have your own podcast and your own YouTube. Would you like to tell the camera over my shoulder where people can find you?
I think the link will just be in the description below.
We could do that. Jonny, thank you so much for coming. I hope you've enjoyed the uncomfortable yid. You've definitely made me an uncomfortable yid very often.
And long may it continue.
Amen. Thanks so much, Jonny.